What's up, everyone? It's your boy Scott. Welcome to the Scott Report, and today I'm here to share a panel interview that I had with a group of voice actors when I was at AnimeFest over in Dallas on Saturday, August 18th, 2018. Thanks to the staff of AnimeFest who gave me a press pass. So first and foremost, I would like to give a special thank you to them for that opportunity. And hey, the Scott Report with an actual report? Imagine that. But seriously, this was an opportunity that I could only dream of not too long ago. So to be able to attend a convention as part of the press staff and to attend a panel and get to ask questions with people who are very prominent in the anime world, that was something that I'm very grateful for, and I cannot thank the staff enough for that. This interview was a panel discussion, so it wasn't one-on-one, and where myself and other members of the press staff, including a fellow YouTuber and a friend of mine, the Otaku Fangirl, was also a part of this panel. Be sure to check out our channel and subscribe as well. She has excellent content if you haven't already. And we got to ask questions about the voice acting industry as far as tips and advice for starting the profession if you're interested in yourself, the future of the industry, and more importantly, how do they hold it all together after doing all these voices all day? The guests in this panel were among the pillars of the anime community, building from the ground up and into the future as dubbed anime and voice work in general is just becoming more and more prominent and becoming bigger and bigger. And these individuals have definitely been a huge part of that, and they will be into the future. These guests included Christopher Wehkamp, who is most currently known for his work as Shota Eraserhead Aizawa in My Hero Academia, as well as Alexis Liskin, and he always tongues-tie me with that name, from Steins Gate Zero, Zed from Blood Blockade Battlefront, as well as the infamous Miles Edgeworth from Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. We had Meg McDonald, whose voices Tama from Citrus, as well as Rika from Love, Chimbuyo, and Other Delusions. Natalie Hoover, who is the infamous Sonya Nevermind in the Danganronpa series. Lily from Recovery of an MMO Junkie, as well as LeFay Pendragon from High School DxD. And last but certainly not least, we had in attendance J. Michael Tatum, who is the voice of Okebe, or Okarin Rentaro from Steins Gate, the man who defined that voice for me. He also plays Ida, or Tenya Ida, in My Hero Academia, and the infamous Sebastian from Black Butler, and many more voices. It was a pleasure to meet these guys. So thank you to each and every one of these guys for taking the time out to answer our questions, and it was a cool experience overall because there are just a bunch of fun people to be around, and there was an incident where we had a delay in getting into, the door where we were going to have the conference, and everybody was just, chilling and relaxing together and just jokingly coming up with a plan like, I wonder how we can get into this door. I mean, we got some people here, we probably can get in. And also, I mean, it's kind of funny but not funny, but it was an experience where we were by the elevators, and it was a group of people who were on the elevators when it came off, and when the door opened, the lights went out in the elevator, and the people on there was like, oh no, not this again, no, as the door went down and closed. So these people were on a dark elevator, and the banter there was just hilarious because it's looking like clearly this isn't a one-time incident with this happening, so I hope they're okay. But either way, it was fun. I cannot explain how great it was to be in the presence of these individuals and to have this opportunity. So without further ado, here's the interview.
Who's the bravest warrior?
Who's not brave? You go first. Hey, no, we don't count. Go for it.
I'll go ahead and ask all of y'all, just what challenges have y'all faced in this industry?
Oh, none. It's easy.
Well, about 5 minutes ago, there was this locked door.
There's all kinds of challenges. I think the biggest challenge for me personally, and I know I'm not unique in this, is when you kind of enter into the acting lifestyle, and that's any kind of acting, any creative lifestyle where that's how you primarily support yourself, it's your relationship to time completely changes because it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not, you don't wake up every morning going, okay, I have to go here, and then I have a lunch break, and then I come home, and then it gets, it's your week kind of morphs around you as you wake up every day. An agent calls and says, hey, can you be here? Or maybe they don't, and you're, oh, cool, I guess I'm going to go to the dog park today. So that's weird, and it's the biggest challenge people don't think about is when you have other people in your life, friends, family, loved ones who have 9-to-5 jobs, it's hard for them to square your weird, chaotic schedule with, their relatively stable one, and that it it can cost a lot in terms of you know, strained relations, because people are like, why can't you show up to this thing? Because I know I made plans, but then I got this gig and I couldn't turn it down, and so things like that. That's the hardest part. So to pursue the work, you have to kind of, sometimes your personal life has to suffer a little bit.
I would say in regards to that, just relationships in general for actors are tough anyway, because you have to basically, you know, when you enter a relationship with your significant other, you have to be like, hey, so I might get a role where I have to make out with somebody. Are you okay with that? Yeah, and like, so anytime, because I was dating a guy who had a 9-to-5 job once, and I was in a show. So we had no time together because, you know, he got off of work at 6 and my call was at 7. So there was no seeing each other while that show was running. So it definitely puts a strain on relationships, but in general, like, you know, I feel like that's one of the most difficult things to do, as well as like the fact that we face constant rejection every day.
Oh, the job is like 85% rejection. If you're lucky, it's 85%. It's more like 95. You know?
I'd say inconsistency and appearances. I've recently lost a lot of weight over the last year. And when I was heavier set, I noticed I wasn't getting much work. And that didn't bother me because I got to spend a lot more time with my family and such and focus on my day job. But since then, my life has been picking up, which I'm very thankful for. But it also comes in the territory of inconsistency working, that I had a 9-to-5 job, so they wouldn't let me leave quite frequently. And I had to cancel a lot of gigs, so that was unfortunate. But I am happy where I am at now, so Hakuna Matata.
Challenges, yeah, I would echo a lot of the sentiments there, about, especially about, you know, rejection and difficulty with schedules, things like that. I would also add that if you have certain goals in this industry, like certain things you want to hit or certain achievements that you want to get to, you have to be very realistic about what that's going to entail, because this is, you know, voice acting specifically is perhaps one of the most competitive fields you can try to enter into. It's like if you want to be an actor, you go to medical school, and you know, the analogy is you would get like a general practitioner degree, right? Well, and then going into voice acting is kind of like you're going to go be a cardiologist or something. So like only the ones that can really use their voice to emote and create a character without using their bodies at all, right? So it's sort of its own specialized little niche, and it's grown so much just in the last decade or so, and lots of people want to do it because it's fun and it's great and it's awesome. But that means that you are competing with, you know, some of the best people out there, and so that's exciting because it's cool to rise to that challenge. But it's also like, it's a level of competition you just have to be ready for it, you know. So yeah.
I also feel like voice acting evolves in general.
Oh yeah,
Because
staying on top of the changes and like what's expected.
You notice it in film particularly, but like the acting style that was in the 50s is no longer relevant today. So you also have to keep updating how you act.
True, right? Which is the fun part.
Study.
Yes. Take workshops and listen to other actors and get together. Yeah, organize.
Try to grow.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that with acting and with all the stresses that come with it, obviously you get very stressed, you get very burnt out. What's something that you do to kind of like recharge your batteries so that you're fresh and ready for the next role that comes your way?
It depends on the nature of the burnout. Sometimes I get very specifically burned out on a character, like it's like Okabe, for example, from Steins Gate is really emotionally draining, and so I have to just go and like eat a lot of ice cream and struggle with like not deal with people for 24 or 48 hours, you know. Sometimes a nice little trip is good. It just depends what I have the freedom to do. Because it's acting, you know, I have certain things that if the stress comes from just being too close to a character and needing a break from that mindset for a little while, I've developed techniques of just like, okay, well then this is what like almost symbolic rituals that I will do to be like, okay, Okabe, you're staying here now. Like you know, be gone. It's like an exorcism. I burn sage and, you know, go through the house with salt and, you know, kind of thing. But mostly it's just kind of, I have a lot of, I'm very lucky to have friends that are very close to me and that are also actors, and so they understand that mindset, so we can get together and kind of decompress and talk it out together. it's our therapy. And actors, I mean, if everyone that wants to be an actor, I highly recommend getting a therapist. I mean, everyone should have therapy anyway, but actors specifically, because you're tapping into things that, you know, because you're in so many weird circumstances as your characters that, you know, if you're doing the job, if you're committed to the job, you end up walking away from it, you know, and it's like a memory of something you actually went through. Right. And with that comes all the beautiful psychological baggage that you can't deal with on your own. You know, you need someone that understands it, and so therapy is good, or other actors that are, you know, going through something similar. So it depends, but it's other people. I tend to like to be alone, but I know the longer I spend alone, the worse off I am. So I reluctantly need people, but I desperately need them. Because when I get with people, I'm like, I don't want to see anybody. And then I have my friends that no, you're not backing out. You're coming tonight. Shut up and just get your ass down here. And I'm like, fine. And then I feel so much better because I listened to them, you know. But I need those friends that can literally sometimes pull me out of my little cocoon.
So like similar, especially when you're doing a character that you record in a short period and it's like a dramatic, because you're running the gamut. Sometimes, like, you know, your character has a really emotional, like, you know, transformation within the scene, and you're only in the booth for 3 hours, but you're exhausted at the end because you're doing all of it, but it's in a compressed amount of time. So that's always really tough. It drains me a lot. I'm always tired after. So sometimes a nap will just fix everything. I'm just like, oh, all better now. But, you know, when I am burnt out on certain things, like whether it be like, you know, knowing I haven't gotten parts, because there's no like, oh, sorry, we didn't pick you. It's like you just don't hear anything, and you're like, I guess I didn't get it. So you'll just you're just
ghosted.
Yes, and you're just like,
by everybody.
Yeah, no. So you're just. So sometimes I do something like going to do something for myself, like something that I enjoy. So that might be like, you know, going out to like, you know, a restaurant to eat, and that'll like make me fine. But sometimes when I need the people, I don't necessarily need like the talking. I can be like, hey, can you just come over and sit there, and I'll sit here, and we'll.
And just watch me eat.
Well, no, like what my mom calls it, she calls it parallel play, because when you have a toddler and they don't play together, they're just playing in the same area, but they have company, so it's like still considered like, so it's parallel play. So like,
that's a great idea.
Right, so
good concept.
Right, so like, so you just like, so sometimes I'm just like, hey, can you just sit in the room? Because I don't like, because there's sometimes where I just don't want to talk, especially if it's been a day that I've had to talk a lot in the booth. Like when it's really line heavy, like your voice is tired. It's really tired, and depending on how many hours you were in there, like sometimes you can't work the next day, and like sometimes you just it's not ready for that. So just, you know, being quiet with somebody else, and then reading books, because I love escaping into books, novels, you know, watching a good play. That's a big thing for me, because watching somebody else experience emotions is just like therapy for me. But therapy, yes. Yeah, if you're an actor, go to therapy.
Therapy.
It's important.
For my self-care, whenever I'm burned out, I usually turn to yoga and meditation. I've been really into that recently. Headspace is a really great app I've downloaded. It's one of the best, I feel. But if I've ever had like a really stressful day, I always try to tend to treat myself, and I always go for my favorite dessert, and I'm like, I've earned this because I burned so many calories in that booth crying. Yes. And this is all for me. But I have no regrets. But in the end, self-care is really important after any type of session, especially if it's psychologically stressful, and you have to take care of yourself in the end of the day. But those are my recommendations.
I am an only child, and so I spent a lot of time alone as a kid talking to myself and doing voices and stuff like that. And so I, even still today, if I get stressed out or if I get too, you know, tired by extrovert stuff, I just have to be alone. I just have to be alone, and I'll do either some meditation or I'll listen to music, read by myself, just so that I'm alone. If I can even just get like 30 or 40 minutes of just staring at a wall, and just push my thoughts away, and just kind of meditate, it makes a huge difference. I try to meditate every day for at least, you know, 30 minutes, and that helps a lot. Yeah.
Oh, here's the weird thing. I also do like anything that's like repetitive. like folding clothes or something. Not that I like folding clothes, it's just something that I know it's like, you can do it mindlessly, like anything that has like that kind of, like it's a decompressing state.
You just have to kind of sort of power down for a little while and then reboot and then you're fresh. But
It's like a cell phone.
yeah.
Like when you're running your computer too long, you have to reboot it.
It's a little too hot. You're like, oh no.
Updates are needed.
Sometimes we're running too long and we're like, oh yeah, okay.
Would you like to restart now? No.
No. Remind me again tomorrow, and then I'll remind you to remind me again the next day.
And then we just power down, and then we're like, whoops.
But then you have breakdown.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Which is when your computer just goes, well, I updated because you were taking too long. And the breakdown, it's really interesting because sometimes you do get breakdown. I mean, everyone does. It's not like actors are special in that respect, but sometimes we might be a little closer to breakdowns because our schedules are so crazy. And something else I wanted to mention in reference to the first question that has only occurred to me lately is that acting, unlike any other kind of job, is not the kind of job where the more you do it, the better you feel. Like, I mean, what I mean to say, there are no benchmarks for like, oh, and now I got a raise, or now I'm this, now I went from management to upper management. There's nothing like that. You just kind of go, it's literally one day at a time, and you kind of reinvent yourself every few months or weeks or something. And so it's constantly, you're in that state of, am I doing this right? I've been doing this for 15 years. I teach, and I'm still like, am I doing this right? Am I doing? And you're just waiting for someone to find you and be like, wait a minute, you're not an actor. You know, and that fear and that feeling stays with you because because actors tend to be very isolated. There's no boss that's like, good job on those last 5 shows you did. I mean, you have a boss for each individual project, and they're like, usually, but the relationship is usually not such that they're like, you were so great, I love you, let's go get drinks. It's more like, cool, thanks for not ruining my show, and then you never see them again. It's very businesslike. So it's not a continuous relationship with a specific set of people that you grow within. It's more like, okay, we go from here and we're done, and then we go over here and we start the process all over, and you're just doing that for years and years and years. So there's not an evolution that's obvious, that's not handed to you. You have to kind of create your own thresholds and find your own benchmarks, which is difficult. It's very self-directed in a way that can be very disorienting if you're used to having the kind of jobs where someone tells you, now you're here, and now you're going there, and then you're going here. You kind of have to, you have to map out that territory yourself, and it's dizzying.
Especially like when you get first started, because it doesn't go like, first you're in Walla, then you're in bit parts, then you're in supporting, then you like slowly work your way up to lead, and then you just stay at lead. That's not how it works. Some people are like, I got a lead, and then they don't have anything, and then they're like, oh, Walla. Like it's very.
Was this backwards up? Did I piss someone off? No, that's just the shape your career took. No fault of your own.
Right. So it's very much. Sometimes you start really big and then you go small and then you're big and then small. But it's a roller coaster. It's always a roller coaster.
It's like I compare it to trying to jump into a rolling car holding groceries. Constantly, just chasing your car because you forgot to engage the emergency brake, and you're like, no, and you're like, you don't know how you're gonna open the door once you get there, but you'll figure it out. But first things first, just get to the car.
That's smart.
Who wants to be an actor now? Have we glamorized it for you? Go for it.
So in addition to voice acting, I know you guys also wear many hats as well, with script writing and, ADR and things like that. Is it like a echelon that you would like to do later, or like how has it changed? Which one do you guys prefer, or like the future, I would guess?
Yeah, so to make a living in any kind of creative endeavor, but specifically voice acting, because it's such a weird niche market and highly competitive, as Christopher said, you do have to wear or be willing to wear a lot of hats. So I, in the course of my career, have been an actor, a writer, director, sub-director, promoter, con speaker, stand-up comedian, all that stuff. And I used to think about that all the time, like, what do I prefer? What do I like doing? And I realized how much all of them kind of cross-pollinated and inform the other, so I no longer separate my writer self from my actor self. They're all like, when I write something, I act it out. Or it's the form of, it's weird as it sounds, writing it out and finding the words is a form of performance for me. Likewise, when I'm in the booth, you're frequently writing in your head, not the lines, but the subtext, or writing the backstory, the let it be trues actors give ourselves to kind of find the emotional truth of the scene. So I've completely lost the ability now to separate those different facets. I can't compartmentalize anymore. I tried to once, and it was just like, I'm an actor now, okay, and I'm just an actor. And then here I'm just a writer, and then I realized there's so much so bleed over that it was impossible to keep straight. It's like,
right.
Yeah, it's like you can't eat from a regimented plate in this business. You know, like your mashed potatoes are going to bleed into your beets every day. That's just how it goes.
like he said, when you basically try and do everything. I'm not particularly a writer for anime. Like, I write some things, but it's just basically like, you know, I write more poetry than anything. And sometimes like lyrics to songs I make up and stuff. They're not relevant in any way. They're just dumb songs. But, you know, it's, you know, something I do to de-stress and stuff. But in regards to, like, you know, working with with working directors and writers and stuff, I find like the writers who are also actors are less likely to give you something that's weird to say. Like, you know, they don't put too many consonants too close together because they know it's hard to get. If it's a complicated saying, they know it's hard to get out. They're gonna be like, "Oh, the actor's gonna hate this." Like, sometimes they can't change.
You know?
Right. Like, sometimes like things have to stay, but like in when I was in college, my focus was directing. So I do some stage directing. I worked at a high school for 4 years and directed like 8 shows. I'm very interested in directing. I love directing, but I also feel like because I like directing and because I like acting, my acting informed me how to direct someone without giving them line readings. And I feel like that's very important to be able to say, because, you know...
God bless you for that.
Well, no,
God
like,
bless
it's so important to, like, if you have cast a role, you trust that person to kind of know where they're going with the role. So, unless, like, because some people are like, hey, can you say it like this? And then they just give me a line reading. And that's, you know, it's very limiting. But I feel like if you say something like, could I get a softer emotion in that? Like, that's something the actor can be like, okay, let's see. And then you just tweak the words you're telling them to get a really true... Well, because the thing is like, actors love being able... Because sometimes they'll come up with something that I didn't even know I wanted until they did something. But if I had told them to say it a certain way, I would have just been like, okay, cool, that's it. But by letting them explore, like, oh, that's my favorite part. Like, when somebody does something amazing and you're like, haha, I did that. Like, it's not no, you didn't. But, you know, it's directing is all like, the actors did everything, but I claim it. Like, this was all my idea. That's what I like about directing. It's very true.
It's probably directing. It's a ball. That's wonderful.
Over the last year, I've actually gone into assistant directing, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. But what I really prefer actually is casting. I know Japanese, and I always compare the Japanese voice to the English voice and tonality. I'm a little way into it. But casting, I'd love to get into in the future. It's really fun. And plus, I just want to hear my friends more. And like, they have beautiful voices. Why not use them? That's me.
As for me, I do primarily acting. I do some writing as well. I would like to get into the directing at some point. It's very time intensive, so the directing piece typically, especially if you're doing like ADR directing, it's like a full-time job. You know, you're doing it kind of full-time during the day, which can be a little bit limiting as far as your availability for roles. This kind of goes back to what Tatum was talking about with, you know, you've got to be sort of flexible and available as opportunities come up. So, but I definitely will. I see myself getting into it at some point. I think right now I'm so deep into enjoying the acting piece of it that I'm just pursuing that more than anything else. So
cool.
Okay, so I myself am trying to get into the voice acting industry, and I've taken some workshops with Sunny Straight, and also I know that feeling of the ghosted thing, because I've been casted on casting call, these abridged series and some fan dubs, but you know, nothing official, of course. But from where I'm at now, it's like I have an official demo and everything. It's like I just don't know next steps. Like, I'm going to take more workshops, obviously, but what's some next steps from there?
Next step, I mean, if you have a good, strong demo, shop it to agencies. There are a lot of agencies in the area, and some of them are quite good, and these are people that You know, and the whole, if you've never done it before, the agency, what an agent does can seem kind of weird. Like, why don't I just do that for myself kind of thing? Because I tried that for a long time. And then when I finally got an agent, I was like, oh my God, I was doing so much more work than I had to. You know, and it just opened the doors to all these contacts and stuff. And that's an agent's job, is to come, you know, to know you and what you can do and be like, I think you're a good fit for this client over here that's looking for this, so we want you to audition here. And that's half the battle, is the business side of it. So, and that's something I really stress actors learn. I mean, we're actors, we're creative people. We don't like business or math or, you know, that's why we want to be actors. Like, we can play a businessman, absolutely, but you know, so but we're not interested in that. And the sad reality is that if you don't look into because this is such a self-directed career for everyone who's in it, like, you have to know the business side and learn it, or there are unscrupulous studios and agents out there that are more than happy to fill that vacuum of knowledge with their own interests. So you have to learn how to protect yourself and who to go to and who to trust and who to network with. We talked a little bit about networking in our last panel. Of, like, you know, build a support group, because actors need each other and they have to organize to help each other out. You know, we get together and we talk about, oh, have you been to that con? Oh yeah, it's a great con, go to that con, don't go to that con. Or avoid this studio, that studio. You need to know that, but the next steps are shop around to an agent. If after 6 months, and it can take a while for an agent to bite, if after 6 months you're not getting anything, do another demo reel. Then it's time to change your demo reel. Keep updating it. I mean, even those of us that are established, try to update our demo reel every couple of years, just so the agent has something that's reflective of, you know, your current, not just your current voice, because your voice will constantly change, especially the more you use it, but as Meg was saying earlier, you know, the style of what's acceptable, what's wanted, changes. So if you notice, so pay attention to what's out there, listen to the radio, and be like, oh, okay, I'm hearing a lot of this type of read, this type of voice. Make sure that that's reflective in what you put on your demo reel. So you're like, oh, I can do that too. So be aware. So next steps for you, continue taking workshops. And do that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Right.
Because there's no point where I have arrived, you know. I no longer have to work. I have mastered acting. No, you have to continue taking workshops, but that's how you meet and network people and get with them. And if it gets to a point where the work just isn't happening, and it may not, even if you do everything right, if the work's not happening, get with people that you know and create something and put it out there. I know that sounds like a cop-out, but not enough of it is done. A problem, I shouldn't say problem, something I've noticed for years is actors tend to have, how do I say this nicely? Our dreams of success tend to be very cliched. We want to oh cool, that's great, but I want to go to LA and hit it big in Hollywood. And that's great and all, but it's nowadays that dream it's kind of one of those things where, like, why not stay where you are and, you know, encourage the talent pool that's there. There's just as much talent in Dallas as there is any other city. Why not get people together and make your own stuff? And actors are sometimes really weird about making their own stuff. They don't feel validated unless someone comes to them and says, I want you in this. And if you're looking for that kind of validation, it's a trap. It's a trap. So go out, organize, get people together, and make your own stuff. If the work's not coming to you, you make your own work and get other people involved in it, because things can happen. They may not ever be something more than something you put out on the web, but it may blow up in some way that you don't anticipate. Look at how many shows come out of nowhere, and suddenly these actors that were, you know, from Iowa or whatever are suddenly on the national scene, and they're still living in Iowa. You know, it's a really exciting time now. There's opportunities for it. So don't follow that sort of broad path that used to be valid for people 20 years ago and before. Like, nowadays you have the power to carve your own path. So next step, shop around. While you're doing that, get with people, write new stuff, put stuff together, make stuff that you can act in. Okay. You know, that's what I would suggest. It's a big responsibility, but that's the life. And it's the kind of life, acting more so than any other kind of life, you have to have a sort of warts and all approach. You have to be thankful for the awful things, and you have to be thankful for the really good things, because like I said earlier in the panel, it's all grist for the mill. When you're going through a period of rejection or a dry spell, it's tough, it's hard, it puts you at odds with your friends because you're in a bad mood all the time maybe, but that's experiences you can use for your craft and your art. And unlike other types of careers, that's at least you have a processing power that other careers don't give you, because you can use it. You can use everything. So I'm rambling, but
So everything he said is right. Like he's right on all of that.
we should hang out more.
But I would say an important thing to note, like, what is your demo specifically of? If it's geared straight towards character, I recommend also doing a commercial reel, because honestly, the voiceover situation in anime is not as profitable as commercial, and you're going to get more out of commercial financially. So my main recommendation is, one, to you know, make a commercial demo and shop that around as well, because you know, I know a lot of agencies don't necessarily shop around for anime in particular, so because that's not something that is like,
It's just not lucrative enough for them.
right.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then also I always recommend improv workshops, because I think they're super important, and also I also recommend doing some sort of stage work, because the thing is like, everybody always really likes to know that the voice actors are still acting in other aspects and facets. Whether they're doing workshops, they're still learning, and when you're in those situations where you're going to a rehearsal like every day, there's no way you can't learn unless you're not open to it. You're always learning new things, and like the biggest thing as an actor that you learn is steal. Steal. Like if somebody does something really cool that you've never thought of before, you're like, great, I'm gonna keep that in my little toolbox. Like some people call it, like, you know, their bag of tricks. I call it my toolbox. So like I've seen people do certain things with their voices that I've been like, I've never done that before, I'm gonna do that. Like, so I like steal little tricks. I'm like, and when somebody does something really interesting, I'm like, hey, how did you do that? And they're like, oh, well, I talk from like the back corner of my mouth, and I'm like, oh, done. Like, you just take all of that in. You just absorb it like
the
a
old
sponge.
phrase that Stravinsky used to use. He was like, artists borrow, great artists steal. It's very true. Like, you just take it and make it your own. It's how you find your own voice, is trying to do what other people are doing, because it's not going to come out the same as theirs. But you're going to find a new voice that you couldn't do before if you try to imitate someone else.
So definitely, in regards to getting into the voiceover world, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But I would say, to expand your chances, work in other avenues.
I do, let's see, I used to do a lot of theater back in the day. That's a good way, in a sense, to broaden horizons, meet new people, and get a lot of network, in a sense. By myself, I usually go karaoke all the time, and I see a lot of people there, and I go, hey, how are you doing? I'm just here to chill by myself. But in the sense, what Michael and Meg were saying, it's all true in the sense. It really comes down to who you know and all that jazz. But also, online sites I found are a really good place to go to, like voices.com, Voices123. There's even another one for audiobooks as well. So you can never really run out of options, because really you're the only person who has your voice. So make it worthwhile. But that's my advice.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always tried to treat acting just like it was any other job. So from that perspective, I mean, it's something I'm very passionate about, and it's something I want to pursue, you know, with all my heart and with all my, with all the things I love about it. Because there's a lot of things to love about it, but it's a job. So how does a carpenter become a good carpenter? They build every day. They don't build just if someone's paying them to build. They build if they're in their backyard and they have 30 minutes and they get an idea. How does an accountant become very good with numbers? They work with numbers every day. So you have to pay yourself first with this job. And the way you pay yourself first is by, if you want to be a voice actor, record yourself every day. Every day. There is no day that goes by that you do not record yourself and listen back to it and try something new or try to grow.
I hate listening to my own voice, but
you are in a period that a lot of us go through. So especially when you start out, you're going to go through a period where you're going to record things and you're not going to like how it sounds. Everybody goes through that, but you got to get through it. And I would say, so forget about getting jobs. Even you're a carpenter. Every day you're going to build something. You're going to have 30 minutes to an hour every single day. It doesn't matter if you're in the car. It doesn't matter if you set up a recorder outside the shower. You're going to have 30 minutes every day where you're going to record yourself and you're going to listen back to it. And you're going to develop that as a habit every single day. And you'll notice if you can stick to, the hardest thing for anybody who wants to try to do this stuff is sticking to it, right? But if you can stick to it consistently every day for like 3 to 6 months, you will grow tremendously if you can do that every day.
With the emergence of social media and a lot of people wanting to know the faces behind these voices. I mean, I heard Peter Cullen for years and then finally saw him and was like, who's the short cowboy? With that, do you think there is a lot more of a popularity contest when it comes to getting roles and everything? It's like, are you out there? Are you popular with fans or whatever?
Studios definitely can treat it like that sometimes. There's been an increase in certain studios, well, not just certain, every studio. I mean, they're a business. They want to make money. And if they have, all things being equal, talent-wise, if they have to choose between an actor that no one knows and has no social media presence to put them in a lead role versus someone who's just as good but who has a huge social media presence, so there's built-in promotion for their product right there, they're going to go with that actor. Now that's in all things being equal. Frequently you find that they don't even care if this person has acting experience or not. Like I've known friends of mine out in LA that'll be like, yeah, we used to be in these shows, and now studios hire us to train the social media personalities. I shouldn't social media personalities who aren't actors and who had no interest in being an actor. But of course, you know, someone comes to you with, hey, do you want to do this show? And they say yes, and they don't know what they're doing, so they hire more experienced actors who were like, oh, I auditioned for this, and now I'm training someone who isn't qualified how to take work from me. That does happen. I think, but the flip side is social media also allows all of us to get on that game and be like, cool, I can create content online, or I can just tweet or put pictures of my French bulldog up, and I slowly gain that visibility too. So it's more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's slowly leveling the playing field because we're all figuring that out. So it's not as big as a problem as it was, say, 5 years ago when studios were like, social media, yes, you have an account that you have X number of followers, you're going to get a role, even though you can't, you know, you've never acted a day in your life. So that, yeah, but luckily, like the rest, the older school talent are catching up to that. Like old man Tatum learned how to use his phone, so you know, I have a Twitter account and that Instabook and that Facegram. You know, I stopped using carrier pigeon for everything.
I do enjoy the pictures of your dog.
Thank you. I need to like put I want my dog to just come to cons in my place and just everyone to be like, this is the real J. Michael Tatum. He's where the voice really comes from.
Right here.
Yeah.
Just a bulldog with glasses.
Yeah.
I'd go. But yeah, I have so much trouble with social media in general because I'm not good at updating. A lot of times I'm like, oh yeah, I'm at this con, I should put that, what are the cool people doing at this con? So I did that for this because I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that. But I'm really bad about posting that kind of stuff because I feel like nobody's interested. Or like nobody cares. So I'm not very good at it. But you know, I'm getting better, and I definitely have seen audition sites that say like, you know, they want you to have at least a certain amount of followers, and that's always very disheartening because, you know, that's not what I went to school for.
To have followers.
Right, like, you know, I just want to be a successful actor, not, I don't need everybody to love me, I just want to get, I just want to act.
I've been to certain studios where actually the sign-in sheet will ask you how many followers you have. And it's a little disheartening in a sense because I only use 2 formats of social media, Instagram and Twitter. I don't use Facebook anymore. It was too difficult and too many strange things. But in the end, I like my platform and where I'm at, but I have been told my look of certain things needs to change. But then you're asking me to change, and I like who I am, and I've worked to be where I'm at right now. So if I want to change, it'll be on my accord, not someone else's. But that's something hard too, I've noticed. But social media is great. I've met a lot of fans through it. I've met a lot of clients through it. It's a great process, but in the end, it's how you present yourself on it. Because someone can have a totally different persona online, but in person, they might be a total mean person, but online they're totally sweet. But it's very different. But I like me, and my real persona is online. So
Yeah, I will say, you're going to talk to most actors about this and ask them this question, and their answer is going to be probably about the same no matter what level they're at, and that is that I think if every actor had their choice, they would just act. They would just act. But there's always been necessary evils in acting because so many people want to do it. There's always been barriers of entry. There's always been thresholds throughout history with performing arts in general, not just acting, you know, dancing, all kinds of performance. So I think it's interesting because in one way it democratizes things, but in another way, studios and producers can absolutely use it as a tool in a way that it probably shouldn't be used in let's call it nefarious ways. But if it is nefarious, it's a necessary evil at this point. That ship has sailed. It sailed a long time ago. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle with that stuff. Now, are people becoming more sophisticated with it? I hope so. I hope we're understanding, you know, in 2018 that just because you have 300,000 followers doesn't mean that you should be, you know, the lead character in the next big video game or whatever. I hope that that's happening, but I also recognize that whatever we're seeing today is not indicative of what we're going to see in 10 years. And if you want to be a voice actor in 10 years, but you can't keep up now, man, I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, right? Because then it's going to be VR technology. And now actors have to appear in your home on social media as a hologram or whatever. If you can't deal with social media now, right, you've got to, it's just going to keep evolving. So like that's the thing, evolve or die. And if you can evolve, a lot of people are going to die. So you've got a chance to keep doing this thing, right? Yes. And that sucks. But there are realities so here, dark. Right? One thing I don't want to do is like have anybody come away from voice acting thinking like, well, this sounds fun. You know, like it is fun. It is super fun. But this is the most competitive thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, so, but it's well worth it. You know, I would keep doing it as long as I possibly can. So that's my answer. Social media is a necessary evil. It can be really fun depending on how you do it. I like your approach. Try to just be yourself, you know, is my advice. If somebody's talking to me about like, oh, I'm daunted by all these things, you don't have to reinvent yourself. All you have to do, like a fan just wants you. So if you can provide them some access into that, even if it's just like, this is what I ate for lunch the other day. There's a voice actor named Ian Sinclair, and he's fantastic. He's a fantastic actor and voice actor, stage actor as well. And he does a hashtag on Twitter called WeSeats. And he doesn't tweet like very, very often, but when he does, it's a picture of something that he wanted to show the world that he was eating that day because it's some delicious food item or whatever. You know, that takes 30 seconds, but he has so many fans that can connect with that. They're like, ooh, I remember when I had that, or like whatever. Like there's a level of connection there that he can foster with something like that. Maybe that's not his favorite thing to do, but that is a necessary evil. I mean, you sort of have to do it. So, yeah.
He's not pretending to like food.
No, he likes food. Yeah, he loves food.
Eat food.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for having us. And
thank you guys.
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Great.
And there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully some of your questions about the voice acting industry was answered as well. Once again, thank you to Christopher Wehkamp, Meg McDonald, Natalie Hoover, and J. Michael Tatum for their time and dedication for this panel and everything that they do for the anime community. And of course, once again, thank you to the staff of AnimeFest for allowing me this opportunity and to attend as a press member. So let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below. If you liked the video, go ahead and drop it a like. And if you want to hear more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as there's not a shortage of content for you to indulge on this channel. As I always say, you guys can be anywhere on YouTube right now. Just chose to listen to me. I really appreciate that, so thanks for stopping by. On that note, it's your boy Scott signing out. See you soon.